Good afternoon, this is Eric Holler with Alaska Statewide Weather for August 24th, 2020. We have a couple options for you. 1-800 number gets you through a telephone menu system, and weather.gov/Alaska is a website. And you can take off Alaska and put on Fairbanks, Anchorage, or Juneau to help you further refine your weather search. And lastly, if you would like to reach us, there's an email. They're listed at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to contact us. For the hazardous weather, nothing going on hazards-wise for advisory watch or warning. There's not even any marine issues at the moment, so please, if you want to venture outside, please check the hazards map at weather.gov/Alaska. For the precipitation estimate on ending at 4 a.m. this morning, essentially on Sunday, there was anywhere between 1/10 and 1/4 inch falling across much of the Matsu and Anchorage Bowl area, and there was some also lighter amounts spread across the Alaska Peninsula into the southwest. And there was higher amounts on the Denali Park area, Alaska Range, with up to an inch and a half in some areas up there. Also down along the coastal mountains, up around an inch down there, maybe even an inch and a half near the coastal mountains. Otherwise, near Ketchikan, 1/4 to 1/2 inch there. And for the precipitation forecast for August 24th, Monday, we're going to continue wet conditions, especially across the southern mainland, from Fairbanks all the way down through the Panhandle, Alaska Peninsula, with up to 1/2 inch, 10 inch in Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula. Higher amounts possible in the mountainous areas. Otherwise, some areas in and around Bethel, southwest, Alaska Range, and over into the eastern Alaska Range, Tok area, up to 1/4 to 1/2 inch, also in the uplands area as well. Not to be outdone, there's some precip forecast along the Brooks Range and North Slope as well, and the Seward Peninsula. For the satellite map for this afternoon, set this in motion. You can see all the cloudiness associated with low coming off eastern Russia and into the Bering. That system will continue here over the next day or so, but otherwise, no low pressure system in the Gulf, spreading clouds and precipitation with that system, and otherwise some convective activity through the interior with precipitation across the interior. Light rain showers noted this afternoon, moderate areas down through the southwest and into Prince William Sound, some moderate rainfall predicted there, and also some precipitation with a trough associated with that system moving through the Aleutians, and maybe some fog and low clouds along the coastal areas, especially along the Arctic coast. For today's weather, again, that 1,006 millibar low pulling out of Russia into the northern Bering, light rain showers across the southwest and into the interior, light rain showers across the Brooks Range, and some fog along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, 1,008 millibar low in the Gulf, spreading some moderate rain across the Panhandle and the northeast Gulf Coast. Otherwise, rain showers in Canada. For tonight's weather, 1,006 millibar low now in the northern Bering. Weak troughs associated with that. Rain showers through the Alaska Peninsula, otherwise rain showers through the interior, and also rain showers through the Panhandle with that low pressure system in the Gulf. For Tuesday's weather, 1,006 millibar low now, and then again continued slow progression through the northern Bering. Trough out ahead of that system, producing some light rain showers through the southwest and into the interior, along with a thermal trough. Some thunderstorms expected Tuesday afternoon again in the eastern interior, and some moderate rain showers through the Panhandle and Prince William Sound near that 1,007 millibar low with a trough associated with that system. Otherwise, poking into the western Aleutians, 1,024 millibar high, some fog associated with that, and fog along the Arctic coast. For Wednesday's weather, 1,023 millibar high now in the central Aleutians. That low cutting across from the YK Delta into the Bristol Bay region, 1,005 millibars there with moderate rain out ahead of that system. Across the Panhandle in the northern Gulf, otherwise rain showers again across the interior, anchored by the 1006 millibar thermal trough and low pressure system. Some fog along the Arctic coast and into Kotzebue Sound, northwest coast, and an occluded front showing up there way out there in the western Aleutians. Low temperatures for Tuesday morning, 40s along the north slope, Utqiagvik 40, Dead Horse 40, and Dead Horse 43, Adigan Arctic Village area 45, Fort Yukon 46, Eagle 46, Fairbanks 50, Tanana 42, Helena 44, McGrath 45, Aniak 46, Bethel 48, and 40s down through much of the southwest into the YK Delta, Nome 47, King Salmon 46, Dillingham 47, 50s and 40s through much of the rest of the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, with Savunga 46, Kodiak 53, Seward 49, Cordova 54, 48 in Yakutat, 52 in Haines, 50 in the state capital Juneau, and 50s through the rest of the Panhandle. For Tuesday afternoon, we've been looking at 40s across the North Slope, Point Hope 53, AKwx 54, Fort Yukon 64, Eagle 63, Northway Toke area 61, Fairbanks 62, 61 in Tanana, 61 in McGrath, 61 in Galena, 62 in McGrath, 56 in Aniak, 56 in Bethel, 60 in King Salmon, 58 in Dillingham, 50 through the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, with Savunga 51, 62 in Kodiak, 58 in the Seward, 59 in Yakutat, 50s down through the Panhandle. And for low temperatures Wednesday morning, back down to the 30s along the North Slope, Utqiagvik 38, Dead Horse 40, 46 in Arctic Village, 48 in Fort Yukon, 45 in Eagle, 49 in Fairbanks, 40s down through much of the southwest, 45 in King Salmon, Cold Bay 48, 40s through the rest of the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, and 49 Yakutat, 50s to upper 40s in the Panhandle. And for high temperatures Wednesday afternoon, 40s along the Arctic coast, North Slope area, 61 in Fort Yukon, and 60s through much of the state, and 50s in the Panhandle, and 50s through the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at flying weather for Tuesday morning. Along the Arctic coast, IFR conditions up that way, marginal conditions through the Brooks Range, but otherwise a low pressure system with a weakening front in the Bering will bring IFR conditions through portions of the eastern Bering and down through the Aleutians, with marginal conditions as you move further into the coastal areas, down through Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, around another low in the Gulf, IFR conditions down through the Panhandle and northeast Gulf Coast and into the St. Elias and Chugach Mountains. For Tuesday afternoon, improving conditions down through the southwest to marginal, with marginal conditions through the Bering. Otherwise, IFR conditions through the central and western Aleutians, and again along the Arctic coast, with marginal conditions along the Brooks Range, Alaska Range, uplands, and St. Elias and Chugach Mountains. Otherwise, improving conditions down through the Panhandle with areas of marginal, and IFR conditions through the coastal mountains and southern end of the Panhandle. For Wednesday morning, IFR conditions along the North Slope and Arctic coast with marginal conditions through the Brooks Range. Also IFR are marginal conditions through the Alaska Range and uplands, with improving conditions down through the southwest and into the Bering, with marginal conditions out that way. And IFR conditions through the central and western Aleutians continuing, and IFR conditions through the Panhandle and into the mountainous areas of the southeast interior. For Wednesday afternoon, continued IFR conditions along the Arctic coast, marginal conditions as you move further inland along the North Slope into the Brooks Range, better conditions for the southwest, but otherwise marginal conditions through the Bering and IFR conditions through the central and western Aleutians with marginal conditions, and even areas of VFR conditions in the Panhandle with isolated areas of IFR through the coastal mountains and St. Elias Mountains with marginal conditions in the Alaska Range. For past conditions, Tuesday, Anaktuvik marginal, Adigan marginal, Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR early, marginal by the afternoon. Same for Rainy, and also windy, IFR to marginal by the end of the day. Isabel marginal the entire day on Tuesday. Mentesta marginal to VFR, and Tanita IFR to marginal, and same with Portage, IFR to marginal. Chilkoot and White marginal for the entire day on Tuesday. Freezing levels, 6,000 foot freezing level through much of the western mainland. Otherwise, 8,000 foot freezing level creeps into the mainland along the border there. Otherwise, surface conditions near portions of the St. Elias Mountains and in the Beaufort Sea. Otherwise, 10,000 foot freezing level just south of the much of Alaska, otherwise clipping the central Aleutians. For icing, went for 9,000 feet and above over large portion of the west, and with isolated moderate there. Otherwise, considerable moderate areas of Prince William Sound and the eastern Kenai Peninsula and into the Chugach Range. Otherwise, around 10,000 feet and above in the Panhandle. For the jet stream conditions on Tuesday, around a low there near the YK Delta, 75 to 110 knots pushing off the Kamchatka Peninsula. Otherwise, 90 to 95 coming across the central Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, 105 you get back into the Gulf. 35 knots southern end of the Panhandle. Otherwise, 45 knots through the central mainland. For 9,000 foot winds on Tuesday, around that low pressure system, again 30 to 40 knots through the southern bearing into the Aleutians, with 25 knots in the southern end of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, 25 knots there as you approach the Panhandle. Otherwise, light and variable across the mainland. For 3,000 foot winds on Tuesday, low pressure systems thermally driven, 30 to 25 knots coming across the Aleutians there or into the Bering. Otherwise, light and variable across the mainland, and 25 knots there in the Panhandle. Lastly, for turbulence, looking below 3,000 feet there in the central and western Aleutians. Otherwise, nothing noted across much of the mainland and into the Panhandle. Otherwise, it's going to be generally pretty good flying conditions through the mainland with areas of thunderstorms in the afternoon.
Can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, it may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's It's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the sea ice analysis for today, we are seeing a retreat of the ice edge just off the Arctic coast there in the Beaufort and northern Chukchi Sea. And we're also seeing some thinning ice as well, less than 80% concentration in some of those areas. For Tuesday's marine forecast for southeast, winds generally from the southerly direction, 10 to 15, seas as high as 4 feet over the Clarence Strait. Otherwise, outside waters winds from a southwesterly direction, 15 to 25, up there along the northeast Gulf Coast, winds from the east at 20, seas as high as 7 feet. And for Wednesday's marine forecast, inside waters winds generally from the southerly direction, 10 to 15, seas as high as 3 feet in the Lynn Canal area. Otherwise, outside waters winds from the south at 15 to 20, seas as high as 6 feet. For South Central, Tuesday's marine forecast for the Gulf area, winds generally from the west, 15 to 20, with seas as high as 5 feet, and Prince William Sound, winds generally from the north at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. For the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the north at 10 to 20, with seas as high as 5 feet in the Kamishak Bay area. And for Wednesday, the Gulf region, winds generally from the southerly direction, 10 to 15, seas as high as 4 feet, and Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 15, seas as high as 2 feet. Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the south at 10, seas as high as 3 feet in the Kamishak Bay area. I'm sorry about the graphics, but the numbers are correct. Winds generally from the west at 15 to 20 across the region, with seas as high as 7 feet just on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. For the Wednesday's forecast, marine forecast, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, on the south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the west at 15 to 20, seas as high as 6 feet, and around Kodiak Island, winds continue out of the west at 15, seas as high as 5 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from the west at 15 to 20, seas as high as 6 feet. For Aleutian Chain, Tuesday, winds generally from the west across the region, 15 to 20, with seas as high as 6 feet just north of Nikolsky or Alaska. And for Wednesday's forecast, Aleutian Chain, winds generally from the west at 15 to 20, seas as high as 7 feet on the north side of the Aleutians. For the west coast on Tuesday, winds generally from the west at 15 to 20, with seas as high as 6 feet near the Pribs. And in Norton Sound, winds generally from the west at 5, seas as high as 1 foot. And for West Coast, Wednesday's forecast for Norton Sound area, winds generally from the north at 5, seas as 1 foot. Rest of the region, winds generally from the northwest at 15, seas as high as 6 feet near the Pribs, with the winds out of that region northwesterly at 20. For the Arctic coast, winds generally from the north at 5 and seas as high as 1 foot in the open water areas. Otherwise, northwest coast, winds generally from the east at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from a variable direction at 10, seas as high as 4 feet. And for Wednesday's forecast along the Arctic coast there, winds generally from the east at 20, seas as high as 4 feet. And northwest coast, winds generally from the northeast at 25 knots, and winds generally, seas as high as 6 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the north at 15, seas as high as 4 feet. For tonight's weather, a low moving out of Russia and into the northern Bering, 1,006 millibars there. Weak trough out ahead of this system with rain showers across the southwest into the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, weak showers across the interior. And then another low in the northern Gulf, 1,007 millibars there with a weakening included front. Moderate rain showers in portions of the Panhandle and a fog along the Arctic coast. For Tuesday's weather, that low in the Bering moves closer to the YK Delta, 1,006 millibars there. 1,024 millibar high moves into the western Aleutians. And Tuesday's weather, we'll see some afternoon thunderstorms on the eastern.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.